Hello and welcome to The Divide, and today I'm going over the AMA that Mountaintop did on Reddit regarding, obviously, Spectre Divide. There's a few good questions asked by the community, so I will be going over those in this video. This is basically what they posted. They did this a few days ago now. Yeah, I just waited a few days to see what would be posted and what would be responded to, and I'm just compiling the sort of bigger ones here for you to, I guess, enjoy, listen to, whatever you want to do. Anyway, this is what they posted. We're Mountaintop Studio, and last September our team self-published our first game, Spectre Divide, on Steam. Spectre is a 3v3 tactical shooter with a twist. You control two bodies, not one. You can swap between them at any time to hold different angles, trade yourself after dying, or line up the perfect utility. Spectre has had a slow launch on PC, but we've spent the past months reworking systems, adding new features, and polishing the game, all of which has been driven by player feedback. We'll be launching on PlayStation 5, Xbox X and S at the end of the month alongside our Spectre 2.0 update called Flashpoint, basically Season 1. We're excited to talk more about what's new in Flashpoint, what we learned from the launch, and whatever else you throw at us. The two main question answerers will be Nate, our CEO, and Lee, our game director, but some other members of our team may pop in as well. Nate co-founded Oculus, where he helped reboot virtual reality with Rift and Quest as head of product, and Lee has spent his games career in product leadership roles in competitive PvP titles, contributing to Apex Legends, Valorant, and League of Legends. We'll be taking questions for the next few hours, and we'll be starting answering at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 4 p.m. Eastern. Ask us anything. So the first question is from Obvious Feedback 23. And it's, what's your marketing strategy going forward to attract new players? Obviously, as a game that has only about 200 concurrent players at a time, attracting new players is going to be pretty important for getting the game rolling. So Nate responded with, first we need to deliver the best experience for players in game, making sure that players are excited to tell their friends to play because it's such a good time is core to any game's success. It's impossible to undersell the importance of great word of mouth. For that reason, Season 1 Flashpoint is a massive overhaul and integrating as much community feedback as possible. Second, we're very focused on bringing in new players, especially on console. The marketing spend for Season 1 can generally be broken down into two main buckets. There's platform store spend, which is Xbox, PlayStation Store, dashboard, etc. And there's user acquisition on mobile/web, so TikTok, YouTube, Meta, that sort of stuff. We're doing a ton of organic marketing beyond this, including press and creator previews, community events, and more transparent communication. Every little bit helps. Nate, CEO. So yeah, I mean, obviously with Flashpoint not being out yet, it's not really a good time to do marketing because people are going to see Spectre, they're going to be, what's this? They're going to go in and there's going to be nothing there and like 10-minute queue times, so then they're just going to give up immediately. So they are looking to start the marketing once Season 1 releases, so that when people see the advertisements for it, they're going to go into the game and they're going to see Season 1, they're going to see the battle pass. Hopefully there will be more people so we can get better queue times and better matchmaking. But yeah, good question, good answer. The next question here was from Milty the Great, and this is talking about the current players who are playing. A lot of current/former players worry about how long it took to get Season 1 and thus worry about how long between content drops going forward. Can you give some insight as to what the content feed will be once Season 1 is out? And Season 1 was delayed. It was supposed to come out at the end or in January, but they had to delay it, and I think they explained that here, so I'll just go ahead and read their answer. Again, this was answered by Nate, and once we saw the community's feedback at launch, we knew we needed to make bigger changes to the core game than we originally planned. That meant delaying Season 1 substantially by more than 2 months to spend more time prototyping, implementing, and playtesting. Sprint and Buy Menu 2.0 are two great examples. These aren't just weak features that you can toss in and hope for the best. We originally planned to launch a new season every 3 months, which is normally what most live games are doing, and we want to get back to that cadence. So they're already looking into that. Season 2's day is up in the air now, but we'll be aiming to ship that June-ish. So they are working on a season 2. We also have a ton of cosmetics content saved up and ready to release if you're into that thing. Absolutely. I am into supporting the game, and that is the way to support the game, so I am into it. I know other people might not be, but again, they're self-publishing, and they don't have greedy investors above them telling them how to make the game more bad like you see in all AAA titles, so that's good. But yeah, it looks like they're going to do the standard live action model, which is 3 months, and they do have a season 2 planned. I think they even said somewhere that they had a season 3 planned in one of the other questions as well, so we'll see that later. Third question is by MyPing0. How do you guys plan on dealing with cheaters, griefers, throwers, smurfs, and toxicity? Any plans to incorporate community-based judgment similar to Overwatch and CSGO? How harsh will penalties be? Any thoughts on a reputation score for players to match with other players of a similar score? Thanks. Again, answered by Nate. We currently have a robust anti-cheat system in place with protections at every level. Now, obviously, cheaters were a problem on launch. That's one of the reasons why the game just didn't take off, because there were a lot of cheaters in the first few weeks before they realized that the game was dead and they weren't going to get any clout out of pretending like they're good at it. But they have done updates to their anti-cheat system, and they continue to do updates to their anti-cheat system, so hopefully when Season 1 launches, we won't have all those hackers coming back. From preventing access to the executable to reporting and actioning loop, as well as both automated and human-led reviews of flagged player comms in-game. This is probably the area we've advanced the most since launch, since it's most effective for us to iterate in the live environment with real players trying to cheat, grief, smurf, etc. We'd love to do a CSGO style Overwatch in the future. I'm a big Overwatch fan myself. Hoorah, me too. However, we need to support replays first, and they're still a ways out. Yeah. Replays, they don't have, obviously, it being a smaller company, it's going to take them a little bit more to implement it, but replays are definitely the best way of like finding cheaters, because if you think someone's cheating, you can go back, watch from their sort of perspective and see if they're just, clearly tracking people through walls. We have a fairly harsh penalty system right now. We regularly hand out 24-hour, 7-day, 14-day, and permanent account bans depending on the behavior in question. Building out a proper reputation system and feeding that into the matchmaking algorithm is something we love to do in the future. We might even try to take a stab at it later this year depending on community feedback. So awesome. I mean, it's good to know that they're working on it. As I said, we've already had updates regarding the anti-cheat and making that better, but seeing like these quality of life changes and replays for easier finding out if someone's cheating, I guess, is in the works or something like they're looking at making. That's great, because no one likes a cheater. Question 4 comes from GlitchyBroom79. This comes from No Place of Hate. Me and my friends have spent money and supported the game, but there seems to be no sign of it coming back to life. Shroud has completely screwed you guys and left almost completely, it seems. The player count never gets over 200 players, and I doubt many of those people are spending enough money to keep the entire game studio up and running. So do you have an end of service planned out? If this update doesn't bring it back to life, do you guys plan to shut down servers? This is another reason why the answer that Nate gives here is another reason why I like private studios instead of like big corporate mega AAA titles, because like they can just be honest and they don't have to worry about like upsetting investors or something like that, and they could admit to when things just aren't going that well. So again, answer by Nate. To be blunt, I don't think the current version of Spectre on Steam is strong enough to bring players back. There's just not enough reason to play, which is exactly why we're all in on Season 1 Flashpoint. All the big changes we made, sprinting, new buy menu, battle pass, new cosmetic pricing, etc., amount to what we intentionally described describe as Spectre 2.0. We're also launching Season 1 on PlayStation and Xbox, which will open the game up to a huge new audience globally. All that being said, if players don't play Season 1, we'll have to take a serious look at whether it makes sense to do a Season 2. It may not, and that would mean figuring out what's next for Mountaintop as a whole. We hope that's not the case. We love this game, and there's nothing we want more than to develop it as a team for years to come. Also, thank you for supporting the game financially. One bonus, we're offering a $50 credit to everyone who spent anything before Season 1. Hope you enjoy it. Obviously, getting a free $50 credit is, no one's going to say no to that. But yeah, they talk a little bit about like what sunsetting the game would look like, but obviously the devs don't want that. I don't want that. I love this game. And hopefully in combination with doing Spectre 2.0 as they call it, and launching on consoles, hopefully they can get enough people playing to where they can keep supporting the game. Question 5 comes from Your Mind's Decide. The somewhat scattered communication going into Season 1 has been a pain point within the community for a while. How do you evaluate the communication coming from you guys in the last weeks/months, and are there any adjustments you plan to make? Nate responded again, you should expect a level of communication from us going forward that's in line with what we've delivered over the last few weeks. I think we communicated closer to the right level in September and early October, but then we decided to make bigger changes for Season 1. We knew we needed serious heads downtime in order to deliver on everything we wanted to include. That meant there was less we could talk about daily/weekly, naturally leading to less chat in Discord and other channels. It's been really inspiring to see the community coming back together around the excitement for Season 1. Constructive feedback is always welcome. I promise we read it all. Hopefully they don't read the troll stuff, because there is a lot of troll stuff. But yeah, obviously when you're trying to make new things and you don't exactly know how it's going to end up, you don't want to go ahead and say something, because then you'll just end up like Overwatch 2, where you're going to tell everyone there's PvE coming to the game and then launch with some of the most abysmal PvE seen in a multiplayer game. And that's why, not saying anything until you have what you want developed and ready to ship, or close to ready to ship. That's probably why they went into, or they didn't chat as much, which makes sense. Obviously, we do not want Spectre to end up like Overwatch 2, because at least Overwatch has a big community behind it, whereas Spectre doesn't have that yet. So I think they're making the right call on that one. And yeah, hopefully we will see more communication as we get closer to Season 1. So the next question here is more about like crossplay and development of console, and it is by Volition OW, so Overwatch player. Let's go. Have you thought about what you would do if the player base shrinks again quickly? How quickly would you add crossplay if this was the case? Also, IMO ranked with crossplay would help to develop small regions like mine, South America, due to more people having access to consoles than PC. Hope you can consider this idea. Smiley face. And the question being answered by Nate here. We'll consider adding crossplay between PC and console in the future. I can't promise we'll pull the trigger on it, but it's always under consideration. A few bits of my thinking on this. 1, let's let the newbie Xbox and PlayStation players find their footing first without the PC sweats out to crush their dreams. That is a very good idea. A lot of the time, I know when I was playing with my friends, we, because of the matchmaking, we went to go play ranked to see if we can get like a low rank match for them to play, and the game put us up against champion players. Obviously, my friends did not have a great time, and they accused them of cheating and then uninstalled the game. So having players find fun with the game before throwing them into a ranked sweat fest is a good idea, so they can understand the game first. That's sort of just an obvious. 2, we want time to dial in controller, aim assist, etc. before pitting mouse and keyboard versus controller. 3, console players have told us they aren't eager to play against PCs, so that's obviously a link to another post. And yeah, that's completely understandable. Any game that's had PC versus console ranked never ends well. There's always the talk of if aim assist isn't high enough, the mouse and keyboards are just way better. And if it's too high, then the controllers are just better. You can see this argument all the time in games like Call of Duty and Apex Legends, where it's generally not a good idea to put them together. And I feel like if they do crossplay, they should only do it for casual and maybe any of their future arcade modes. I think that obviously competitive should just stick to being no crossplay. 4, no crossplay reduces potential cheating vectors for console players. There's always, zimming and that sort of stuff that still happens on console. And it's not as much as PC. So, again, the whole argument with the less cheaters there are, the more people will have fun in the game. And 5 is basically just what I said for 3, which is obviously it being casual is the best idea, because making it ranked, it's very hard to balance between aim assist and mouse and keyboard, especially because in the lower ranks have a different idea of how much aim assist is too overpowered, versus the higher ranks will have a different idea of how much aim assist is too overpowered. So there's that. But yeah, with all that said, let's see how Xbox and PlayStation launch goes. We'll figure it out from there. Very good question about that sort of stuff, and I love the answer. This is talking about like arcade modes. Most games have arcade modes are good for having fun without necessarily playing just the core game mode. So Nitro Karazd says, will there be a deathmatch mode, arcade variety of fun modes, seasonal festival modes, or a replay mode? And Nate answers, not for season 1, but these are all on the table for the future. Keep in mind, until we have a larger player base, we don't want to fragment the matchmaking pool further, which is fair. Deathmatch. We have a prototype deathmatch mode working internally. This is probably a season 3 feature, assuming it stays a high priority for the community, which I think it will. Everyone's looking for a deathmatch mode. It's just a really good aim trainer and practicing spatial awareness. Arcade/seasonal modes. We'd love to add more modes like these, but we'll finish the deathmatch first. Yeah, pretty simple there. Replay. This isn't on the roadmap for season 2, but it's definitely something we would like to add in the future. From Nate. I mean, yeah, good answers. Love to have more modes in the future, but again, with such a small group of developers, they're obviously looking at improving the core mode first and getting people to enjoy the core mode before they branch out into other things. So this is a really interesting question. A lot of people were calling Spectre Divide Shroud's game. I don't think it was ever Shroud's game. I don't think Shroud ever owned the game at any point, but as they'll get into the answer, he's more of an advisor. But yeah, this question comes from Dark Killer Evil. I'm really curious about the deal with Shroud. Was he only obligated to stream the game for a little while? Before and shortly after launch, he was all, my game is this, my game is that, and now he doesn't talk about it, mention the game at all. Will you shed some light on this, please? And the answer from Nate. Shroud's official title is Lead Gameplay Advisor. In that role, he's helped us with Spectre's design, tuning, and balance through a ton of behind-the-scenes play testing and iteration. For example, not only did he help shape Monarch Tactical and Cadell, he's helped with iteration on the next few sponsors and maps too. And just reading between the lines here, sponsors and maps means they're already working on multiple. So, there should be more content. They're obviously looking at trying to do multiple seasons. It's just sort of how season 1 will go will decide if they actually release the content or decide to pivot into something else. The community took the narrative around this is Shroud's game to a level we didn't expect or prepare for at launch. We've tried to rein that in, and Shroud himself has been super clear to the community about that, but that messaging hasn't been picked up much. And that's true. I mean, sort of everyone took the narrative that this is Shroud's game, and because Shroud is a big name, it sort of just spread around that this is Shroud's game, even though that has never been the case. As Nate says, he was the lead gameplay advisor, and everyone just, I think he had like one short where he's like, I'm working on a game, but I don't think he ever said that it's his game. So Nate continues on to say, I wrote more about this in our early October blog post. What's next? The save round. Shroud's still involved himself, but he's been insanely busy recently with his incredible Fragathon charity project, raising over $1 million for St. Jude's Children's Hospital. Massive kudos to him and Banans for such an amazing event, Nate. And that is true. Shroud's been doing sort of his Fragathon event, and I don't think he's played Spectre in the Fragathon event, but I haven't been keeping up too much with that, so I don't actually know what games he's playing there. This question is just talking about esports. It's from Bolt the Wagon. It says, what is your vision for the esports ecosystem in Spectre Divide? Mainly third-party tourneys, or will there be like primary tourneys where the best get to shine? Also wondering if you are going to introduce any new tourney guidelines for the release of Season 1. And the response from Nate, we built Spectre to be highly competitive, so obviously we'd love to see a healthy esports scene grow from it. Our philosophy has always been that this needs to be community driven and developer supported, as opposed to being fully controlled and operated by Mountaintop. We've loved seeing the community tournaments since launch. The passion, dedication, and insane talent energizes us. Admittedly, there are still a few features holding back a proper esports experience in game that need more development time from us, like improving the beta version of spectator mode we shipped late last year and adding a pause function. Those are highly on our list to improve this year. We don't have any changes planned for our tournament license at the moment. Are there any specific tweaks you were hoping to see? I don't think there was any response to this. Yeah, I just checked. There wasn't any answers to this, so but yeah, that's just sort of talking about how the esports will work. Obviously, with there being a bigger audience for this sort of thing, there will be more incentive for sort of third parties to pick up Spectre Divide as something to hold tournaments for, but that will just come with player interest. How often are you planning to release more sponsors and maps? Is there a specific interval on that same note? What length will each season be? So this one was answered by Lee, and he says the plan is to ship a new season every 3 months. Generally, we'd like to release a new sponsor with every season and a map every other season. Maps just take longer to design, build, and polish. Sponsor number 10 is in great shape production-wise. We've been planning it internally for months, and it's become a favorite pick for a lot of our team. Assuming Season 1 goes well, we'll likely target June-ish for Season 2. So they're already playing with sponsor number 10, and so obviously they are planning to have a Season 2. It's just sort of seeing what the response to Season 1 is, and if it's good, then great, they can continue. If it's not good, then at least they have content for a Season 2. It's just, they'd be looking if they're going to do a Season 3 or not. And I saved the biggest for last just because this has a lot of information for it and a lot of questions. This is sort of a multi-part question from Your Minds Decided, and I'll just sort of go ask the question and then read the response for that question and then go to the next point. So yeah, what would you guys consider a successful launch for Season 1? You probably don't want to give out any actual numbers you're aiming for, but on a scale from Supervive to Fortnite, where do you want Spectre to land in terms of market position? So for one, Season 1 Flashpoint needs to achieve profitability in terms of revenue. One benefit to being independent and foregoing a publisher is that this is absolutely achievable with a small group of players supporting the game. That means thousands of regular players across Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation as opposed to millions. We don't need Fortnite levels of success to continue, which is good to know because they're obviously not going to hit Fortnite levels of success, at least not from what the game is looking like currently. Obviously, hopefully with Season 1 we get like a big boost, but I still don't think it'll hit like the whatever hundreds of millions of players that Fortnite has. But again, as I said, they don't need that, right? Like, they don't have a publisher, they don't have greedy investors who are looking for max profitability, so they just need to create enough revenue where they can support the people who are helping create the game, really. 2 was Season 1 of was supposed to launch this month, yet we are still without a date on when it's actually going to happen. Is there anything that's holding you back from giving a date? We're going to share a launch date very close to the date Season 1 Flashpoint actually goes live. It's hard to keep players' attention, and we think having a short window between the announcement and the moment when everyone can play is the best strategy. I completely understand that. As someone who likes to view game developers versus gamers themselves, us gamers do not have the largest attention span, especially for something that's already looking like it's dead. From, I can understand that people who are looking at Spectre from the outside in would be like, it's a dead game, and then forget about it. Whereas anyone who is actively playing the game sort of just accepts the long matchmaking and just enjoys playing the game. And so this strategy of announcing it pretty much right before it goes live is honestly a good strategy, and it's worked before, right? Like Apex, literally they had an announcement as it went live. The game went live and they're like, hey guys, we just made a new game, it's live now, and that popped off. I got like 50 million players really quickly. So it's definitely a strategy that's worked before, and I get where they're coming from. And we already went over number 3, so obviously they already marked that down here. Number 4, you announced that you would introduce sprinting in Season 1, which has been discussed controversially among the community. Did you explore any other movement tweaks before going with sprinting, or was it clear from the get-go that this was what you were going to do? Number 4, yes, we prototype and or shipped a bunch of different movement adjustments. We actually tuned movement quite a bit post-launch, mainly by increasing forward movement speed with weapons. We also prototyped a playtest with Apex-style mantling on most boxes from jumping. That was fun, but it opened up a crazy number of hotspots which were previously only accessible via puck throws. It would have to require a lot of changes to our maps. Sprinting was not the obvious solution, but we playtested and dialed it in relative to knife jog speed. It quickly clicked internally. Personally, I'm pleased with where sprinting has landed balance-wise. I was a skeptic early on in Spectre's development, and I'm now a convert after tons of playtesting, especially on controller. Yeah, one thing, like, people heard that sprinting was coming and they immediately just assumed it would just end up being like Call of Duty, which is not the case. It's only a forward sprint. From what I've seen in the trailers, it looked like only a forward sprint, as well as your weapon is down while you're sprinting. So there still looks to be like a weapon draw before you can start shooting. So at least like from what they've shown in the trailer, it's definitely not Call of Duty at all. Question number 5. Perhaps this is a bit of a philosophical question, but I'm curious, what do you want Spectre Divide to be? It is supposed to be a hardcore tactical FPS or more of a fun time with friends? Has your stance on this changed since release? It's still a PvP tactical shooter at the end of the day. With that being said, I think we're a little less worried about being perfectly competitive, and we've tried to dial up the fun and player agency across the board. A really simple example of that is widescreen support. It sounds silly, but we were originally against it from a competitive integrity standpoint. Now that's a no-brainer given our perspective shift. So it seems like when they first started this, they were looking to make it like super competitive and realized that's just not a good idea for trying to make a game that can survive in this type of ecosystem where you want to attract, a casual player base as well as a competitive player base. And it looks like they've shifted perspective, which when you're trying to draw in new players, it's a good idea, right? And question 6 is pretty much just going back to Shroud. I think that's who they're talking about, but I don't know if Shroud actually like financially supported it, so that I'm not saying that. But have any of your prominent backers, you know who I'm talking about, played a role in the terms of development since release? Yes, but after we went heads down on the bigger changes for Season 1, there were less regular play tests with the team, and then folks were out for holidays. We're excited to get back in there with the entire community around Season 1. Yeah, so there was a lot of questions, a lot of good questions answered sort of in this Q&A. Obviously, I didn't read off all of them. This has already been over 45 minutes of recording. Hopefully I can cut down the video so it's not that long. But yeah, there are a lot of other questions, so I will link it down below. That's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.